Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Great to see everybody. I'm Seth Meyers. Now, I'm, I wish. He's making a little more money than I am doing this. I'm Joe Cosentino, and you may have heard Council Connections is now shifted over to the new Activities Committee that I was recently elected chair of. I think I left the meeting early or something. But what happens is we are now going to take over the Council Connections, and we've renamed it, at least for now, Community Connections. And we hope to do duos, panels, singles, residents, staff, a lot of different things to get to know each other here in our wonderful Woodland Pond community. Now, I will share with you, by permission of Jason Irish, the resident director, that the title he wanted for this was People of the Pond. It sounds like a horror movie. That's what he wanted. Clearly voted down. So, for at least for now, that's our new title. And we have two guests who have never been interviewed before. They haven't really worked at Woodland Pond for that long, and I'm really excited that they agreed to be interviewed. And we first have Liz Elliott, who is the wellness nurse here in Independent Living. And you may, yes, we can clap for Liz. And you may remember, I recently emceed the USO show, and Liz was in the show. Yeah, may remember that. Right. And we also have Ryan Squires. I'm going to read his title. Assisted Living and Garden View Registered Nurse Unit Manager. I'll tell you a quick little story. When I met Ryan in the pub, I thought he was Jason. And I started talking to him because he looks so much like Jason. And his answer was, I wish that I made Jason's money. No, I ad libbed that for you. No, you didn't say that. That was my ad lib. We were also to have Deb Vining here, but she had a last minute emergency. So in the future, we'll do a panel with nurses from Skilled. So we get everybody in. But today, at least, we do have the independent living, assisted, and garden view. So we have all three. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, I can also tell you that when I told my 101-year-old father I was doing this, he's in assisted living in New Jersey. He said, why didn't you go to medical school? Then you could take care of me. So he's very excited that I'm talking to the nurses today. Okay, so our first question, tell us about your education. Why did you pick nursing? And we'll start with Liz.
So I always wanted to be a nurse. I don't really know why. I'm the youngest of five. I made my little life thing here so that I could, because I think talking about my life explains a lot of things. I grew up in Sullivan County in Livingston Manor, if any of you know Livingston Manor. And my best friend's father was the town doctor. I never went to a doctor's office in my life. He would stop by our house if we were sick on his way home. And I just loved him and what he did, and that made me want to be a caregiver. So.
And where'd you go to school?
I went to Pace. Yes.
Very good.
I drove on the, people say, why did you go to Pace for nursing? I don't know if any of you have ever seen the Pleasantville campus. It's beautiful. And when I drove on the campus, I said, this is where I'm going. So.
Very nice. And how about Ryan?
So about 100 years ago, feels like it. It was 2007. I was deciding what I wanted to do. I had taken the New York State police exam, and my mother, who was a registered nurse, director of communicable disease for the Dutchess County Health Department, always wanted me to be a nurse. I come from a family of nurses. So I took the state trooper test, and I said, let me just go to school while I'm waiting. So ended up graduating and finding out that I just loved it. So that's why I did it. And I
That
went to
was
Ulster.
Ulster.
Yes.
That was quite a shift from being a police officer to a nurse. How did that happen?
While I was waiting, I just started working and found out I really liked it. I like taking care of people.
Yeah.
I think some people here will say I'm like the police. I'm looking at you, Jean.
Maybe there's a correlation between being a police officer and a nurse.
Yeah.
Okay. What about your background prior to coming to Woodland Pond? Because you both are pretty recent to us. So what did you do before here?
So after I graduated from Pace, I worked at Westchester Medical Center because I had done a rotation there and I knew that's where I wanted to work. And the only thing they had available was the oncology bone marrow transplant unit. And so I ended up working there. I absolutely loved it. And subsequently, my whole career was oncology. But when I was working there, I went to visit my friend in San Diego. Her father was the doctor she was my neighbor growing up. And I visited her and I thought, why the hell don't I live in San Diego? So I came home, quit my job, and drove across country to San Diego and worked at Scripps Clinic. Any of you from the West Coast maybe know Scripps Clinic. I worked on an oncology bone marrow transplant unit there. We were right on the 8th green of Torrey Pines, so people would call and say, I'm having my chemo next week. I want the room that overlooks Torrey Pines. I met Jonas Salk and Theodore Geisel when I was there. Theodore Geisel is Dr. Seuss. So it was a very well-known place that a lot of people went to. And then I met my husband. And he, after I met him, got a job on the island of Lanai in Hawaii. He is a retired golf course superintendent. So we moved to Lanai. And it was the days of we had to go to the library and take out an encyclopedia and look up Lanai. And they had about this much about Lanai, and we knew nothing about it, but we moved there. And we lived there for 4 years, and I worked at Lanai Community Hospital, which was the redheaded stepchild of Maui County. We had glass syringes. They never updated it. We were a little I wish I could write a book because it was an interesting experience. We had a little hospital with about 9 beds, and then there was a long hallway with a doorbell, and the doorbell was the emergency room. And people would come and ring the doorbell, and it was whatever came to us. They did not deliver babies on Lanai, but the time that I was there, we delivered 5 in the emergency room. So it was a really interesting experience, a really interesting place to be a nurse. And then from there, we moved back to California. I didn't work when my kids were young, but then spent 20 years in a cancer center on the central coast of California. So I was a breast cancer nurse navigator. So that's why I like to help people through the system, because that's kind of what I've always done. And my dad was not doing well, moved in with my sister, and my husband had retired. And I said, how about if we go to New York? And he said, okay. And here we are. But before I started at Woodland Pond, I worked for about 2 years with a breast surgeon in Rhinebeck at Northern Dutchess Hospital. But I was so happy to find Woodland Pond. I live 2.5 miles from here, so it was perfect.
Wow. That's some journey. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. Ryan, how about you?
So I started in Lake Katrine in long-term care. I did that for about 4 years. I was doing overnights, and I loved long-term care. I did not enjoy the overnights at all. A lot of sleep disruptants. Very difficult to stay awake the next day. Sometimes you'll be up for days at a time because you're awake during the day. You know you have things to do. Let me get them done. So I got off the night shift and then I went into wound care at St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital. I did that for 6 years and I absolutely loved it. I was good at it and you get to see people get better on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, and you know you're making a difference. So I did that. From there, an administrator from St. Christopher's Inn, a friend of mine, asked if I would come on board and help with drug and alcohol rehabilitation. So I did that for 6 years. I did medical lectures for about 180 mostly youthful males. So trying to reel them in during a sexual conversation was interesting at times, but I absolutely loved it. Loved seeing them get better. From there, I went to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. I was there for the last 3 years, and I was a unit manager down there, and I also ran a CNA instruction course. And I love that, but I have a huge family, so I decided to come home and be with them, and Woodland Pond came through, and I absolutely love it here.
Oh. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
I may look young. That's about it.
Well, nursing probably ages you anyway, I would think. Yeah. Okay. What are your duties at Woodland Pond? And can you say that in under 5 hours?
So I love what I do here because it's different every day. I look at myself as your GPS. I want to help you get through the system. I want you to be healthy. I want you to have what you need. I want you to get what you need from your doctors, from what we have to offer here. And if there are things that I should be doing, could be doing, would somehow be more helpful for people, I would love to know that too. I kind of am taking my cues from everybody. I've never done a job like this before, so I'm learning too. But I like to chat. My favorite part is just chatting with people and learning about their lives.
And Ryan?
So I oversee the day-to-day operations in assisted living in Garden View. Making sure the staff nurses and aides are supported, helping on the floor when I can. There's a lot of assisted living regulations, so monthly audits, quarterly audits, yearly audits, addressing any resident concerns, family concerns, and yes, finding the time to do it all.
Yes. Okay, well now we get to the fun questions. So tell us what you like best about your position at Woodland Pond, but also then, second, tell us what challenges you face, maybe what makes you grumpy or not so happy here.
I like everything about it. I loved the job I left. I loved working with the breast surgeon, but I love, I don't know how many of you heard Dave Roberts talk yesterday at the groundbreaking, but he was saying that his wife asks him if he wants to work from home ever. And he said, no, because where else can you go and walk down the hall and 50 people say hello to you? And that's how I feel here. I'm, pretty new to New Paltz. My family is basically my friends. But I feel like I just have so many new friends and people I care about. And I just love everything about that. The thing I don't like is I hate it when I get to the end of the day and I have not been able to see everyone I need to see, check on everyone I need to check on, things like that. I do wish I had more time in my day to do all of that.
And Ryan?
Absolutely, the residents, interacting with the residents, seeing smiles on their faces, getting to know them, their cares, what they like, what they don't like. challenge is time, as Liz was saying, to get it all done, to fit it in and make sure you give everyone the appropriate amount of time. There's a lot of paperwork involved. I was mentioning audits and all the background stuff you have to do, but finding time to really meet with the residents and make sure they see you and they're taken care of. But absolutely, residents are my favorite.
2.5 years ago, after we moved in here, I was so tired. I said, can somebody put me in assisted living and people take care of me because I was tired. But really what you do is very important, seriously, because the people in assisted living can't take care of themselves and they need you. They need the nurses. Yeah. Okay. Would you like to each share some things about your family and personal life?
Sure. I want to just go back to what you were saying, though. When Joe told me that this was going to be happening, I was really happy. You guys know, most of you know me, but I was so happy for you to meet Ryan and Deborah and Gia. Unfortunately, they're not here because, you know, people fear, I think, the health center. And to know that you have these guys there making sure that things are really going well, to know that behind the scenes there are people doing everything to make everything right, I really think is so important. And, you know, they aren't necessarily, I sit in meetings with them, so I know how great they are. But I think not everybody realizes what goes into making things work so well over there. So,
Thank
you. So I have been married for 33 years to my husband, Tom. And I made some notes this morning and I walked away and I noticed that my thing was turned over. And so when I turned it back over, it says, my stud husband, Tom. He wrote that, obviously. So 33 years, and I know a lot of you have been married a long time. I'm not going to say I haven't wanted to put the pillow over his head a couple times, but he's really a good guy. And we have a daughter, Madison. She's 29, and she lives in Austin, Texas. We had a son, a wonderful son, who unfortunately at the age of 24 passed away from a heart condition that we did not know he had. So I understand grief. I know a lot of people here have lost children. I've been through things in my life. I feel like I can understand what people are going through. But I said I am the youngest of 5. Most of my family lives around here. So it's really great after 35 years of being away to be back with my family.
Nice. Okay. And Ryan?
So as I mentioned, I lived in South Carolina for 3 years. So I come from a big, big family. I'm one of 6. So that is the reason I came back home. So I moved back. Within 2 weeks, I was starting a new job. My brother-in-law called me. I have a perfect girl for you. I said, I'm a little busy right now. Things are a little crazy, but that's fine. I'll meet her. And almost 8 months later, we're still together. She has 2 beautiful kids, Brantley and Braylon, and I adore them. And that's me.
How old are the kids?
6 and 5. Brantley is a very old soul. He'll sit you down. He's like, did you have a hard day? Do you need anything? And Braylon's a little firecracker. She just always looks like she's up to no good, but she's a sweetheart. Yep.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that. So, Liz, I know we've talked about we both come from Italian-American families. Yeah. So my mother one time said to me, I have yeast, sugar, and fat. I could be a cake. So I always think of that when I see you, that we share that Italian humor family situation. So would you want to share with us a story maybe from your days in your fun Italian family?
My dad was a very born in Brooklyn. His parents, came from Italy. He was very old school Italian. So he'd say, "You're fat. What'd you do to your hair?" He'd be he was when we lived in Hawaii and California. He spent a lot of time with us. Who wouldn't? He'd be at my kids, sporting events, and he'd say, "That kid stinks. They need to take him off the field." And, I'm like, the parent is standing right next to us. So I do know what that is like. But you know what? We all say they broke the mold when they made our pop, and we miss him and all his, crazy things that he did very, very much. So
yes, there's something about at least Italian Americans that I know that there's no filter. When I would see my mother, she'd say to me, "How come you got bald?" And I said, "It's the mother's genes." So, yeah, there's no filter, but it's a fun way to grow up because everybody just says whatever they want to say and they don't think about it. How about you, Ryan? Do you have any childhood stories that you, from a big family, you must have had some exciting things happen?
I have countless. I'll choose an appropriate one. My father, my parents struggled as I was growing up, probably till about 12, 13 years old. They both worked crazy hours. And since we were all about 2.5 years apart, we really babysat each other. So we all got to become very close. Every year, my father would say it's going to be a tight Christmas and get us all disappointed. And then we'd walk down to the Christmas tree, and you couldn't walk in the living room. Just so many presents. And it's because they put in the hours. And I won't tell one about my brother. But he always likes to say, and we shared a can of mixed vegetables for our first dinner after our wedding. And they both worked themselves up. My mother, as I mentioned, she became communicable disease director at Dutchess County. And my father, he started in IBM as a chef. He went to culinary. And 6 months in, they told him they're getting rid of the cafeteria. Do you want a job with computers? So he said, why not? I got nothing else. And he just worked his way up to a high-level management position. He retired from IBM and then worked for AT&T for 7 years. So my youngest brother, Luke, did not know the hardships we grew up with. He got a new pair of sneakers every couple of months and pretty much everything he wanted. I'm the second oldest. I'm the oldest guy. Yes. But I wouldn't change a thing. Builds character, and we are who we are today.
Yes. Now, as I mentioned, since they weren't available today, we'll do another panel with the skilled nursing. But do you and how do you work with skilled nursing staff, or do you not?
So I think so every Tuesday we get together for a meeting. We talk about residents maybe who've recently been in the hospital, things like that. I will say, since I've been here, I can't believe what a well-oiled machine Woodland Pond is, in all honesty. They are always thinking and making sure that there is room on whatever unit for whoever needs it. I'm very impressed by that because, as most of you know, and I have told a lot of you, I think the medical system really kind of stinks. So I'm just impressed with that. But that is something we do at our meetings. And then we're always talking about, if he has residents on his units that, used to belong to me, because I think you belong to me when you've been here. We try to talk about people, if we have people leaving assisted living or skilled nursing to come back to independent living. I actually like to go over and talk face to face with the nurse because I feel like we need a good handoff. Instead of just, getting something saying the person's coming back to independent living. So I don't know how it was before I came and before you came, but I feel like we all work very well together.
Yeah, we have a very good system. I really couldn't have said it any better. Based on how residents are doing, the ultimate goal is highest level of functioning. So if we have a resident on skilled that is making progress with physical therapy, occupational therapy, and we feel they can transition to assisted, we'll work closely with skilled, with Liz and independent living. Yeah.
Sounds good. Before we get to the audience questions, I have a question from Carrie. Do you have a favorite story that you would like to tell us about yourself? Something we don't know about you, or maybe just something that happened to you, or something in your life that you'd like to share?
So after our son passed away, my husband and I both quit our jobs. People thought we lost our minds, which we sort of did, but we took a job as managers of a 160-acre ranch in the hills of Northern California. And we were at 6,000 feet, and we had horses and miniature donkeys and chickens. And the owners are very wealthy people. And so we had every piece of equipment known to man. And we were off the grid. So a lot of you here are, engineers. We had a Pelton wheel for our power. So I learned all about, water making power. I learned all about animals. I could drive a bobcat. So if they need me out there, I'm happy to go out there and help them. We had a snowcat, a brand new one that the owner and my husband went up to the factory in Oregon, and he had them build it the way he wanted it. But sadly, the million-acre Dixie Fire that was in Northern California came through the ranch. And so we were surrounded by Forest Service land. And so it was a beautiful place. We did weddings and people stayed. I made my husband evacuate when we knew the fire was close, but the owner stayed. And they were out on their boat in the center of it was a private water fly fishing lake when the fire came across. And I have amazing pictures if anybody wants to see them, but they watched their buildings burn down. They watched their house catch on fire. So about 90% of the vegetation on this 160 acres was lost. And all of the infrastructure for the Pelton wheel that came down from the spring all burned up. So that all had to be redone. But they basically rebuilt things. But it was such an interesting experience to live in a place like that where, if the Pelton wheel went down for whatever reason, we didn't have power, we had to figure it out. So living off the grid was really quite an interesting experience. I'm glad I'm not doing it now, but it was a great story, and I had never experienced wildfire, and I never want to again. It was really quite awful. So.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but thank you for going first because I couldn't think of anything. But you reminded me of my grandfather who was in World War II, and he was the tail gunner in a B-52. He was shot down. The plane flipped over, and he was the only one that survived. But he was also taken as prisoner of war, and he was there for some time. And he would never really talk about it. But he had a farm in LaGrange, all kinds of animals. He had a really cool duck pond with bridges and little houses for him. And I just remember as a kid loving to go there, feeding the animals, going on the trails. That's what I have.
Very nice. Thank you both. One more question, then we'll open it up. Do you have any advice for the residents here? Any advice for the residents?
Drink more water.
Stay hydrated. Yes, it is the best. And stay active. Do as much as you stay active.
Yeah.
Yes. Do as much as you can. Do what you enjoy. Talk to your families. Yes.
Well, the nice thing about living at Woodland Pond is we have water and we have activities and we have each other. So that's great. Okay. Well, it's 2:30, so it's time for if anyone has any questions, if you want to raise your hand, I will give you the mic.
This question is for Ryan. What specifically do you do to help people in assisted living? I understand that you give them their pills and the medications, and do you help them take showers? Do you help them dress? What do you do for assisted living people that is different than over here in IL?
So as the manager, I more so oversee their care and make sure that the nurses are appropriately handling their medications, appointments, activities of daily living. Yes.
So you would help them with any activities of daily living that they would need help with?
Yes, if necessary, the floor nurse and the aides will do that hands-on. If they need my help, absolutely. But keeping track of their care plan, making sure everything is up to date and that they are being cared for according to their care plan.
So the floor nurses, just to piggyback on that, would help to shower them or whatever they would need done. Is that correct?
Yes, the floor nurses more so medications, treatments, and they can absolutely help with activities of daily living. The CNAs are more so showers, dressing, things like that.
Okay. Oh, all the way in the back. We'll start with you, though.
I'm independent living at the present time. What is the criteria to go to, say, assisted living?
So when you first came in, there was a list of criteria for independent living. And so basically doing your activities of daily living, managing your money, being able to do things on your own, take your medications. I forget what the whole list is, but and when we notice that someone starts to not meet those criteria, that's when we kind of start to talk about, you know, are they safe? I mean, I think first and foremost, it's safety. Are they safe? And then we would probably talk to their family and see, has their family noticed anything? If they have a spouse, you know, the spouse will let us know. Otherwise, their children. And then we talk to the person about, you know, do you feel like you would do better if you had help? Because a lot of people, I feel, especially people who are alone, it's scary when you suddenly can't do things on your own or you're not feeling well and you're by yourself. That's a very scary feeling. And when you go to skilled nursing or assisted living or Garden View, there is staff 24/7. And so it's really a much better place for people who are having anxiety over being alone or can't do certain things. So that's when we kind of start to talk about that. Would you say that's?
Absolutely agree. Yes.
Got another question?
Well, it's not a question. I just want to say I don't know how to thank all of you. I feel Clay is safe, and and I feel I can go about my life otherwise here, and still see him and have access to him. And I really am appreciative very much. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have some spouses in independent living with a spouse in Garden View or assisted or skilled, and that's a whole other level of concern. And so the nurse is in a way or a bridge, I think, between you, which is great. Okay.
So as you know, I am chair of the Health Center Committee, and one of the sort of subcommittees or parts of our committee is Neighbor Corps, which is intended to help people in independent living find ways to assist people in non-medical ways in both skilled nursing, Garden View, and assisted living, and here. And I just wonder if you have any specific things that you could direct us toward. We could ask some of our neighbor corps if they can do it, or if you think there is something that we should really look into. I know one of the things that somebody raised here once before is that when their spouse was in skilled nursing recovering, no one came to visit. And I wonder if you have any comments on that, or other ways that independent living can come over and do things for residents in the health center or residents here.
Yeah, you're probably going to be sorry you asked me that question, because I've been wanting to talk to you about this. I would love to see, there are a number of people, if any of you have done PT, you know that you're doing PT on your way to PT. And I would love it if we could possibly see if the Neighbor Corps would be willing to push people to PT if they can't walk over there. I don't know how they feel about that, but that's a big need that we have. We're working on a sort of a guide to visiting people in the health center, because we have heard that there are people who go over there and then they are kind of cut off from their friends. And something I've been talking to Cameron about is, it's hard to get to the health center. It's not an easy way. And is that what's keeping people from going? So there has been some discussion about putting in some sort of a sign-in device, at the door here by the elevator, instead of having to go up and then across and then down. So we are kind of looking into that to make it easier. But I do think that, possibly we could talk about people who are discharged from the hospital or in skilled nursing and they don't have family in the area. I think it would be lovely if we had people who could visit them and just, kind of let them see a friendly face. So I would love to see more partnership. I don't know if you guys are wanting more things to do, but I can think of a number of things that would be helpful.
We had the groundbreaking for the theater, the new performing arts center that is being built here. And it's going to be a lot more convenient for people in the health center, because when we brought them down here for the various shows that we were doing, it's a trek. It really is. Whereas it will be right next to them. So hopefully that'll help too.
Hi. Tell me how you manage resistance, and what you do if someone is clearly ready in your eyes for a move and they just don't want to do it. How do you manage that?
I'll start with independent to health center. He can talk about different places in the health center. So since I've come, I think maybe we have seen that a couple of times. I prefer to not be so much involved, and I think my job is not as your police, as your friend, to help you stay well. And so I'm always going to probably take a lot of the residents' side. And Sarah and Michelle, I kind of let them be the heavies. Plus, they've been here a long time and they know more of the guidelines, honestly, than I really know. And I don't think they've ever, at least since I've been here, I don't see that they've ever really had to push someone who doesn't want to go. I think the beauty and why you move to Woodland Pond is because you know that you have the option of going to these different levels of care. And I do think after a while, people see that, yes, that is why I moved here. And aren't I lucky that I don't need to move across town and I don't need to. So I have seen most people, really realize I can't do what I used to do. And wouldn't it be nice not to worry about getting up and getting dressed or falling in the shower or any of those things. So I'm sure there will be a day when, I see real resistance, but I have not really seen that yet. But I also understand resistance. I'm Italian. And, I like things done my way. So I also get that side of it and, would hope to understand the person's resistance, but help them realize why it is a better idea to be cared for. So.
Right. It's really just highest quality of care that we want for everyone. And as Liz mentioned, Woodland Pond does have that option: independent, skilled, assisted living, memory care. So it's really keeping everyone at their highest functioning quality of life and really getting them to understand that, let's say you're unassisted and your memory is possibly declining. We have a wonderful unit, garden view. Everything is exactly the same. It's just a little more supervision, helping the families to understand, helping the resident to understand, and so.
I'd just like to know where Ryan's office is.
My office is right upstairs unassisted, right next to the dining room. It's in a little alcove right there.
Just give me a moment to walk the whole length of the pack. That was Carrie's.
Getting back to independent living people doing things over there. Anytime I've thought about going over there, I pull back because I'm not sure, are they getting breakfast? Are they getting lunch? Are they getting dinner? Are they PT? Are they getting other help? Are there visiting hours? Are there times that are generally pretty good to see somebody in any of the units? I mean, assisted or memory care or skilled?
Great question, which I will let you answer. But I also am thinking, we don't, in this little thing that we're making, I think we just say, make sure it's a good time to visit. But maybe we need to be specific and get that from you guys about don't come between, 8 and 10 or between. And that's a very good question.
Absolutely. If you would like to visit a resident unassisted, in skilled, on garden view, it's really getting to know their schedule when they are in PT, if they have an appointment outside the facility, and you can always contact us and we can let you know what the resident is doing that day, but never be apprehensive that you're not going to catch them. If you want to go over. You can call us first and we can let you know the resident is at PT right now. This might be a better time, things like that.
Who do I make the call to?
You can call the unit directly. You can call myself.
I had a neighbor in Skilled who I would visit, and sometimes I would visit her and be told, oh, well, it's not a good time. She's being changed or whatever. And I just killed some time and walked down the hall. And I said, oh, I know him. I know her. And I went and visited them. So maybe you could just go in, kill time and visit somebody else, and then go back to the person when they're available to talk to you. All right. 2 more.
So, Ryan, you work in Garden View you work in Garden View in a very challenging population. What do you do to unwind and keep it together?
What do I do to unwind and keep it together? The drive home that doesn't work because you go over everything in your mind. Did I do this? Did I take care of that? I got to do this tomorrow. It's really just getting home, and believe it or not, the chaos of the two children, it eases my mind because I'll just the noise just cancels everything out, and I can't even think straight. So that's how I unwind with them.
Well, thank God for those two kids.
Indeed.
Uh, Ryan, I'm over in the health center a number of times a week, and I wonder. I know how busy all of you are. Do you really want people to call you when they want to come over? I'm not questioning. It's very nice of you to offer that, but I think we should take our responsibility to try to come over. I don't see calling the units with one more problem for you guys.
I absolutely encourage you to come over, and if there is a specific resident you want to see, come over. If they're not there, then, as Joe mentioned, that was a great idea. Visit other residents. And then when you finally do hook up with that resident, you get to know their schedule, and then you know. And you can call me, but that would be the preferred method, yeah. Right.
Yep.
Those are better times, yes.
They're the same time of day.
Yep.
8, 12, and 5, yes.
Ryan, it's a couple of years now. I've been delivering mail on Saturdays in the other building, and there's several other people here from the neighbor corps. I find each unit utterly separate, different from the next. Not that there isn't always change, but I'm trying to picture how you spend time in assisted living where there are a number of people who have physical limitations, but otherwise are the same people that they were when they were back in independent. And then there are other people who are physically intact or like before, but who have lost some cognitive functioning. So it's a mix, and it's 40 people, and it's open door policy, and that's that world. But the other world you're in charge of nursing in is the world of just 20 people, all with moderate to profound cognitive issues, and a team that's very tight. And it's like its own world. And they're so different, those two worlds, never mind skilled, which is a whole, it's like completely different. I was just wondering how you're able to navigate, or do you appreciate the fact they're two separate cultures?
I wouldn't say it's challenging. I do appreciate the two separate cultures. It's challenging with dementia and cognitive impairment sometimes. Refusals. If they want to refuse medications, cares, you have to strongly encourage, but at the end of the day, every resident has the right to refuse. And then sometimes it's challenging with family members. Why didn't my loved one take their medication? You're not approaching it correctly. So those can be challenges, and we do have dementia training that our two nurses are going through, and I feel it's going to improve some things.
Yeah. We have social workers, an independent as well in the health center. How does the nursing staff connect to the social working responsibilities?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Very closely, very closely. Social work does handle family members, complaints, concerns. I do as well. We work very closely together, integrated care plans. We meet with the residents together sometimes. If they would like to change their care plan, feel like something would be easier for them, difficulties they're running into, we work very closely together.
closely with the social workers in the health center as well for some of our people that are over there. I find them extremely helpful with all the information they have and they give.
What are the names of the social workers over there?
So Sarah Motherway and
Amber Goldman.
Goldman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amber.
I have a question about how is there a mechanism for determining when somebody should have the keys to their car taken away?
You and me both.
Because we've noticed a person that, well, we were driving and all of a sudden the driver just stopped. We're in the middle of the road, stopped, and we said, "What happened?" "I don't know." And then he took off. So it's a case if the person doesn't come to the realization on their own, I can't imagine how you could force somebody to do it.
So I would love to know if I love little birds who come and tell me things. And I think what we would need to do is, sometimes the person doesn't want to hear it, but that would probably be the first thing. And then we would talk to the family. And I do think, and I have some people who come to me and say, I'm not sure I should be driving anymore. And I say, I think if you think that, then it is time to stop. But that is a really tough thing. I find that family members don't want to be the bad guy. Doctors don't tell people not to drive. But Ryan his wasn't somebody who needed their keys taken away, but he was in an accident that he can tell you at 299 at the light. I hate that people from here are driving through there. That's such an awful intersection. But if you see someone who you think is having trouble, I would like to know about that.
We were mentioning about these social workers. So Annika, who's an independent, who was in our USO show. And then there's 2 in the health center. And we're going to, in the future, have a panel of social workers. So you can ask them your questions at that time. Ryan, would you want to share about your car accident? You don't have to, but if you'd like to, just since it was brought up, what happened? You're obviously okay.
It was October 13th, I believe. It was a rainy morning. No, I'm just kidding. I was on my way to work, and as Liz mentioned, the intersection at 299 and Putt there, I was coming straight through the intersection, and there was a van in the left turning lane, and decided to go right in front of me, and my car was totaled. I had some glass in my eye and in my face. I had little recovery time and some neck pain, but could have been much worse. Could have been much worse. So just lucky to be alive, that's all.
Well, thank goodness you're okay.
Thank you.
What is it like for a nurse to go into the emergency room?
As long as everything is being done correctly, you honestly just relax because you know everything they're going to do. It's when you start seeing things that they're not doing, you're like, can we get somebody else?
Yeah. So do you say to them, do it this way?
Exactly.
We have a couple more questions.
This is for Liz. I'm not sure how long you've been here, but everyone I speak to is so impressed with your responsiveness, your cheerfulness, your competence, and we're not letting you leave. So thank you.
You forgot to mention my acting, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Liz is the best.
Back to Margaret.
Okay.
So you just have the 2 social workers in the hall of all of the healthcare. And so who takes care of when they're coming from the hospital and all of that? Is there somebody else that Because that's a load.
We also have Natalie Russick, the admissions coordinator.
Right.
She will work when people are coming to and from the hospital. But yes, Amber and Sarah do have quite a caseload. Yes, but they're a great team.
Okay. One last question.
When somebody's in the hospital, Mary Jo used to track everybody. And do you do that too?
Yeah, we can look in the computer. Not everything is always in the computer, but on Healthy Connections, something you sign when you come in here. I try to, reach the resident in the hospital if I can, or their family. I like to know what's going on. So, yes.
Well, we're just about out of time. Thank you both. You were wonderful.
Thank you.
We're clearly lucky to have such dedicated, skilled nurses at Woodland Pond. Absolutely. And thank you all for coming. And we'll be doing this once a month. So come back again. Thank you. You did a great job.
Excellent.
Yeah, you both were great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
that was
job.
good.
Oh, you didn't know?
That they know you guys.
Yeah, it's good for people to get to know who you are. And
People are afraid of over there. Now they won't
They
be
know-
afraid of you.
they know you, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they do now.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You'll get a lot of fun.
And it's going to be on YouTube.
Heard.
So they'll know you better.
Thank you, John.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
ISP right now.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it.
They're good. The question you raised is much bigger than Amber Goldman, the head people. Really, there's a social worker not have a license. It's only Amber Goldman was hired last. This 1.5 is the best they've been able to do, but it's definitely a concern. Well, I think the way I find it, I don't know. Yes.